I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. You're funny.
Like I said. Do you like my tail? Like I said.
And we are back for another installment of Iron Rage. This is New York Pro Week here at Iron Rage, and Lee and I are going to be taking a look at some of the competitors that will be competing in New York Pro, plus talking about some other fun stuff. As always, Lee, I noticed you're not in your car today. What's going on?
No, I wasn't in my car last week. I was here.
No, that's true. You're right. You weren't.
See, I'm trying to. What I've noticed was if I sit in my car and I'm right outside the gym, like I get to the gym and I can see the gym, then I sit in the car. Then when I'm finished, I look at the gym and go, I don't want to go in. So at least if I sit at home and then I drive to the gym, it's like I'm just getting there. But sitting out the front for an hour, my enthusiasm goes. So.
You know, it's funny, but today was the first time I think in maybe 10 years. Now, maybe not a little less than 10 years, but I actually trained someone at the gym today. There was a guy who's in the gym who's been asking me to train him. And, you know, I had my foot surgery first, then I had my cardiac surgery, and I kind of kept blowing him off. And just because I really couldn't do it. And he finally texted me the other day. I said, you know what? What the heck? I haven't trained anyone in such a long time. I kind of was looking forward to it. Plus, I like money, and he was going to pay me cash. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll train you today. So I trained him. The guy was crippled. You know, I don't do a lot of sets, but, you know, I'm really high intensity, and I'm like, you know, I kind of like training people. I kind of miss it, but I never like training like 10 people in a row. You know, I can train one person and enjoy it, and then I can go and train myself right after. But if you have to do like 3 people in a row, it becomes murderously like
And it's good too. Like if you train, it's fun training a person if they're really into it and want to be pushed too. If you get those ones that go, oh, I don't like that exercise. Oh, this hurts. I was like, oh, fuck that. Don't even waste my time.
Yeah, he's hardcore, this guy. Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he's not a wimpy guy. The funny thing is that you know, I find myself like saying, you know, man, I kind of know what I'm doing. You know, you forget, because I haven't trained people for so long. I'm like thinking, I'm watching these other trainers in the gym all the time, and I'm always like, these people don't know what they're doing. And then I'm like, you know, I actually know how to train people, but I just it's not something I want to do on a regular basis because it's burnout. But I remember when I first started training people, and maybe I don't know if you ever did this. You were like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. This is like great. I'm actually training someone, and they're paying me to do this. So I always said, you know what? Never complain about it, even though it's tiring to do 5 or 6 people in a row. Yeah, you could be digging ditches, you know, with Jay Cutler when he was a kid. You know,
I know it's great. That's why I always sometimes even if I do it online, and people ask for a diet and training program, and they want to pay me, and I send it to them. Sometimes I'm like, I feel bad taking money because I've been doing it so long. I look at it and go, this is so fucking basic. Doing the basic exercises, eating clean food. It's like, why can't you, in your head, think chicken breasts, rice, salad, fish is good for you? McDonald's is bad. How do I lose weight? You know, it's like, it's so basic.
You've been doing this for 25, 30 years. That's why you're getting paid for your experience.
Yeah, but really, though, anyone who's got common sense knows what foods are good and bad. So it's like, it's not when I say I want to lose weight, I don't know what to eat. You know what to eat. It's just that you don't like eating that food. You want to be told to eat it. So it's like,
hey, look, if you go to physical therapy, it's not rocket science when you're in physical therapy, you know, of what they're doing. But you need to be, some people need to be told what to do, you know?
Yeah. And then some too, like I said, I'll make them pay up front. That way, once they're paid, they're more inclined to stick to it. I've had ones where they'll be like, might do monthly, but you'll send them the whole diet and training. And then after a couple of weeks, I don't want to do it anymore. And you know, they're still going to follow the training and diet, but they're like, just don't want to pay you all that.
Every time I do something for free for a friend or a friend of a friend, the person never lasts. So I make everyone pay, even if it's like $100. like I have really good friends. I'm like, if you don't pay me at least $100, you're not going to follow this. And they know it. They're like, you're right. I got to pay you something, because if I don't put a value on it, I won't follow it.
And plus, to yourself, if they've paid you, then you're like, okay, I have to help them. If they don't pay you, you're like, well, they're not taking it serious. Fuck it, I'm not going to take them serious either. So you don't really put everything into helping them, because you're like, yeah.
But now I have to work this person into my schedule, which is already like overbooked. Everything. I don't have a free minute for anything, and I'm like, holy, now I got 3 times a week. I got to go to the gym at like an hour before when I normally would train myself, because I got to train them, which I'm like, I created a burden on myself. But I'm thinking, I am getting paid cash for this. So like, and I'm like, and he does like it and enjoy it. So like the greedy part of me can't say no, because I'm like, that's easy money for me. You know what I mean? And he is enjoying it and getting something out of it. So I want to do it. But the lazy part of me says, why are you, do you really need the extra $200 a week or whatever it comes out to? You know?
Well, you always figure, well, that's petrol money I don't have to take out of my main money. Right. So it's like, or just like eating out food money or something like that.
Yeah. So, the point I want to make is that, you know, never turn down, like if you have a source of someone going to pay you, especially cash, you know, never turn it down, because first of all, it's not going to last forever. Number two, you know what? You never know when you're going to lose another source of income, you know, or you might have to pay for, like you said, maybe your car breaks down, you got to pay $2,000 to fix something. Now you can rationalize it. Well, you know what? I paid it off already, because I've been training this guy for 3-4 weeks, and you know, he has the money. But
I just hate having things planned out. It's like, even if like my wife and I, we might say, someone goes, you want to go for lunch next weekend? We're like, sure, we'll go. Then all week I have anxiety about I have to go out at lunchtime. It's like, as it gets closer, I'm like, can we make an excuse not to go? And I hate things that are planned. I'd rather someone call up that day and go, you want to go for lunch? Sure. But if I got to think about it, I'm like, oh, that's going to cut in the middle of the day when I could be doing this. And I'm like, oh, I get like anxiety as it gets closer. I'm like, oh, fucking hell. Why did I say yes?
The reason I'm laughing so much is because you said it's like your wife planned. It's not like some friend of yours that you haven't seen since high school said, "Hey Lee, you want to have lunch next month on Monday at 5 o'clock?" And you're like, "Yeah, all right." And then all of a sudden Sunday rolls around and you're like, "Oh shit, I should never have agreed to this."
No, I don't mean my wife. My wife and I, we both hate it. I'm talking about.
Both. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she's like me. She just likes to stay at home if she's not working and just do nothing. So the whole, we've got to change our clothes and go out and sit there. It's like,
I feel that way about vacation. I'm like, oh, do I really want to go on? I got to pack all the stuff, and I got to bring the kids. And I'd rather just stay home. Can't we just go someplace?
I'm like that. Anything out of anything, even if like you got to like go overseas. It's like, even I start thinking as it gets closer, I got to pack a suitcase. I got to go to the airport. Then I got to wait at the airport. It's like, once I get there, I find it's also like the friends you're going to have lunch with. Once you finally go for lunch, you have a good time. It's just that whole leading up to it, thinking about it. But once you go, you're like, I'm glad we went out. It was nice. But that whole leading up to it, just like, oh, fuck it. I don't want to go.
When I drove across, before I had my surgery, I drove across the state to go. I had to drop some snakes off at a guy who bought a bunch of stuff for me, wholesale to him. And, you know, I texted Dan Solomon. Dan's like, oh, I'm at the gym. I'm like, in Boca, I said, oh, you're not at your house? Because I was like literally on his block or something like that. He's like, no, I'm at the gym. It's about 15 minutes. I'm like, do I really want to go 15 minutes out of the way? And then I got to still drive back to it. So I'm like, all right, stop being a fucking old guy. And I said, go to the gym. So I went there, I met him, and I had a great time. Darren Charles was there. Dan was there. We hung out for like about an hour and a half and bullshitted. And I was like so happy I did it. But you're right. You get into these like the ruts where you don't want to go anywhere out of your comfort zone. You want to just stay in this loop that you do every day, the same thing every single day.
I've been in a rut for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm getting like Jimmy, where I'm getting sentimental. It's just like, I want to go to the gym and train, and when I get there, cause of the nagging injuries, I got to go get this shoulder looked at again, because I'm sure it's torn more. It's just like, you go to the gym, it's like, okay, let me try and do this. Oh, fuck, I can't do that one. Let me try and do this. So you start getting pissed off, but then it's like, I'm just watching, like I said, I follow Rich Mensa from Golds and that. He posts pictures, and anyone that posts pictures from Golds, I'm going down this fucking, I remember that day there and this and that. And like I said, you know how the feeling of the atmosphere there comes back, and you start getting all sentimental about the old days. I'm thinking, oh, fuck, that was 20 years ago. Time's going too quick. And it's like, I wish I could turn back. You know, you start thinking like, this is what the stuff you think on your deathbed. Oh, whole last couple of weeks.
You lived in Venice, but you know what? When I look back at some of the pictures from there, and not even when I was there, just looking at your pictures, I'm like, you know what? We were so fucking naive. We took that so for granted, like it was going to last forever, like forever and ever and ever. Gold's was going to be the place to go, and that atmosphere would be there. And you know what? It's gone.
But it's funny. It's like I said, the atmosphere in the gym's gone itself. But it's like when I went back there last year, and even when I look at the photos, it's almost like even though the atmosphere is gone, because I lived it for so long, when I walk in, I can almost feel it just in myself, that atmosphere and how it was.
Nostalgia. Yeah, you felt the nostalgia of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh. And so now when I see photos, I was watching the Netflix June 7th, that Arnold documentary comes out. Have you seen the preview?
What is it about?
It's on YouTube. See if you can find the preview. It's called Arnold. It's all about him and his bodybuilding career, going into politics, and it shows him at Venice Beach. And when I see him down there, it's almost like I can almost smell the Venice Beach air and just getting that whole. Yeah, I didn't even know it was coming out. It's called Arnold, June 7th on Netflix.
Yes, yeah, they're doing 3 parts. That's great.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's just showing just talking about his life and how he got into the bodybuilding and then going into movies and the politics. It looks well done from the preview.
Netflix has been doing some really good. I've been watching a lot of documentaries on Netflix. You know, from the Pele one I watched.
I got to watch that one with Michael J. Fox. They said's really good.
I watched it. It's fantastic.
I watched I watched that movie yesterday, Air, about the Air Jordans. Have you seen that movie?
No. What was that about?
It's just called Air. It's Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman. It's all about when Nike started and they were like really low, and Converse and Adidas had Jordan and that. And so they're trying to, and it's about Matt Damon's character saying, look, we need to get Jordan, and just throw all this money at him. And he went to visit Jordan's mother and he said, the other company's going to offer you this, and this is what they're going to say. And if I'm correct, and the guys are going to be wearing ties, the Bulls color, and he pretty much had word for word what they said. If I'm correct, then you'll come have a meeting with us and give us a chance and that. And then it was how then the mother said yes, but he also wants like a share in the profits of what the shoe makes. And that was the first time that ever been done. And then, you know, Affleck plays the guy that runs the Nike guy himself. And he's like, sure, why not? If we go broke, we go broke, and this sort of thing. And then it comes up how much money. I think he gets like 400 million in just sales from his shoe alone a year.
You know, Magic Johnson was offered that same Nike deal when he first came on, and he turned it down because he said, you know, because it was the worst business decision he ever made. He said, because everyone was Converse. Everyone was with Converse at the time. And he wanted, and Converse was, you know, offering him tons of money. Nike didn't have the money to give him. They were offering him like with Jordan, here's this, something just starting. We're going to name a shoe after he's like, I was the stupidest of all time to go with that. I went with the money and with the big flash, and, you know, and he still made money off of it. Don't get me wrong, but Jordan made much more money.
It's really good there too. It's really good in there when they got like a video presentation up, and Matt Damon's character's like, turn this off, and he speaks from the heart saying, we're going to create the shoe around you. You're going to be the shoe, and this sort of thing. It's going to have your name on it. And then later on, the guy who made the shoe, he actually passed away, but before he did, he was the one that made that. He took the name off and just had that silhouette photo or graphic of him doing like he's flying through air. So highly recommend the movie. It's called Air if you want to watch it. It's very good.
Yeah. Jordan gets 5% of the earnings from the Jordan brand. Considering that the brand made over $5 billion in 22, Jordan's cut was very significant. That's crazy. Michael Jordan has made approximately $1.3 billion from his Nike deal until 2020.
I know there was something on the radio just last week. It wasn't with Nike. It was with some other thing that he has something in, and because I'm talking about the money he makes, and this other deal, from that alone, he got 160 million a year just from that. So you add every.
You know, and then people make fun of the fact that he's got a gambling problem. I'm like, yeah, he's got a gambling problem, but the only problem is he can pay his freaking gambling debts with no problem whatsoever. There's no way he can gamble even a fraction of what he makes a year, you know?
He's probably just dipping in.
Imagine if he lost 10 million a year in gambling. who cares? It's like nothing. It's like a fucking rock.
And the funny thing is too, if you're gambling millions, when you win, you're going to win big. So it's like,
but I'm saying, even if he lost 10 million a year in gambling, which is ridiculous, right? When you think about it, it doesn't even matter. It's like a write-off for him almost, you know. It's like
probably be like, there'll be like loose change on the interest he earns.
It's
on
like
his
you
money.
and I going for drinks every night, you know, and say, oh, Lee and Dave, they spend, you know, $100 a night on drinks. What a waste of money. But you know what? Jordan's just doing it with gambling. What's the difference, you know?
And he's probably got a little, like a petty cash tin set aside that he just uses for gambling. He's like, this account here, the interest I make, monthly interest on this account is 40 million. I'll just take 10 of that every month and gamble. It's like
that's right. Like, yeah, and you know, and like you said, when you don't care if you lose, that's when you always win, right? Because it's because
that's when you know you're rich, when you got that much money to lose millions, you don't even care. You're like,
yeah. Troy Zuccolato's a big gambler. I had him on the show once, and he was telling me he spends a lot of money. You know, hundreds of thousands on gambling.
He's done pretty well with all those car washes and everything and stuff like that. So
and he has that hormone replacement clinics too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think he made money.
Like gambling's not great. I mean, like if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you got bills, you got family, then gambling's bad because you'll go into debt. You'll start hawking stuff. Then it's like, you know, even if you start stealing shit to gamble, then you got a problem. But if you can afford it, then it's not really a problem, is it?
No, it's like no different than going and wasting money on cars you don't need. You know what I mean, or whatever else you know people spend their money on. So, you know, I'm watching this on Apple TV. I don't know if you saw it. It's called Drop of the Gods.
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's about wine tasting. It's about a guy who owned the most expensive wine collection in the world, and he dies, and his daughter, he has his pupil that he's been training, and he used to train his daughter, but he hadn't talked to her in 30 years, and then he has a competition between the daughter and this star pupil, and whoever wins the wine tasting competition will inherit all his money, and he's got like a lot of money, like probably 30 million bucks. And but you learn, they're teaching you about like wine tasting, and it's like these people, Lee, will spend
is it like
$1,000 on a bottle of wine.
Hold on, is this what? I can't stand when I watch those shows.
They never swallow. Yeah, they don't swallow. They spit it out. They spit it out
like that. Yeah, it's like, but the way they first go.
The smell, because they got to bring the aromas.
The aroma is so exquisite.
Well, there are people, Lee, who can smell a wine and tell you what vineyard it is, what year it is. What
they sort of do this with their throat.
Yeah.
The taste on my palate is. What is it? What's that word I'm looking for? Oh, I was like, fuck off.
But really, the take home is that there are people like certain like wines that are so valuable that people will pay, you know, $15,000 for a bottle, and they'll open it up. And these people will go to these very, very fancy restaurants, and they'll take like business partners there that they want to close a big deal on that's maybe worth millions and millions of dollars, and they'll buy a $15,000 bottle of wine, and you know they have to present it the right way, and they have to pour it, and you have to taste it, and you know. And
then they show you the bottle with the little towel over their arm.
Yes.
The bottle, and they
show you all that.
And then they always pour it first, and the person buying it does the.
That's right.
Yes, go ahead. Feed the minions. Feed the minions. It's like, fuck off with it. It's like when they watch those cooking shows, the competitions, and the judges get all the food, and they cut into it. They get a tiny, tiny little piece.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I mean, how can you even fucking taste it? It's like this fucking big. It's like, it's so moist. I'm like, that's the saliva in your mouth.
When Blackman would take us out to dinner and he would order the bottle of wine, they would do the same thing with him. And his bottles were probably $100, which is still a lot for a bottle. Yeah. They bring it around, they show him the bottle, they pour him a glass, and he
smells it, tastes it.
Yeah. And I was waiting for him one time to say, this sucks. Don't. He didn't care. He just wanted to drink. He's like, you know.
It's almost like he's the king. Then he says, okay, you may now pour for my subject. Let the peasants have a taste of this wonderful thing. Please, please, please. Have some.
Get Dave Dave likes Malbecs, Lee. He likes the Malbecs because it's got a little bit of a fruity taste to it. He goes, bring the Malbec. What's the best Malbec you got?
Don Perignon. It's like, I just read in an AMA study, this new one has all these stuff in it that can help you. Do you have that one here? I know it's a bit cheaper, but the studies are phenomenal.
So we went to small claims court, my wife and I, yesterday.
I saw that, and you won.
Yes, my wife was like Johnny Cochran up there. She was so good. She was so nervous going up there, but she was so good. I was like just sitting there. It was like I was watching a movie. The way she was cross-examining people. And at the end of the trial, the small claims is supposed to be 15 minutes. It was a 2-hour trial. The judge even said, she's like, I don't think I've ever seen a small claims trial take this long. And you guys, for being, talking to my wife, for being a novice who doesn't know what she's doing, you sounded very professional. I said. And because this retard across the street
and
from
the
me
neighbor had to be there too, was he? He had to go as well.
Oh, he's a complete lunatic, this guy, and he completely exposed himself as a complete lunatic at the trial, which was great. This judge, they must have been, I think she let the trial. She had nothing on the docket for the rest of the day. I think she let it go for 2 hours because I think she was secretly laughing her ass off at how crazy this guy was.
Like being entertained
he was suing us for a tree that we chopped down on our own property that he claims was on his property, but he had made a mistake. And then when we hired the surveyor, he realized he made a mistake, but he was still suing us for it. And he wanted me to pay to replant his whole property, $4,000, hand water the plants. He had all these bills, and he was still suing us. And it was like, I'm like, how does this guy think he's going to win? And obviously he lost.
They just got to be careful. I don't see in Florida family gunned down as crazy neighbor upset over court
exactly.
outcome.
Yeah. And you know what? And I told the story for the dummy. I had offered him before my heart surgery $500 to just make the thing go away, and he wouldn't take it because he was too greedy. Because he thought he was going to win He thought he was going to get $4,000.
What was his face like when the judge ruled in your favor?
He looked like my son when if I told him he can't play a video game. He was like, damn. He was like so mad. He was convinced he was going to win.
Does he have to cover your court costs as well and stuff like
that? No, we should have countersued him. We just didn't want to deal with the paperwork. But we should have countersued him for the survey we had to pay for and all that stuff. But
just winning,
we didn't have any court costs.
Just winning and seeing his face would have been good enough anyway. So.
Oh, you know what? I was dying. I wrote. I'm sure he saw the post I put on my Instagram and Facebook, which the whole neighborhood has seen.
Come Christmas time this year, as a gift, leave a little tree on his doorstep.
Well, the best thing, Lee, is because he planted like 12 trees after he cleared the property illegally, and he planted them. He didn't realize he planted them on my property, so they're my trees now. So he has to stare at those trees for the rest of his life that he's there, knowing that he can't go on the property and touch the trees because it's our property. So that's my retribution. All right, let's talk a little bit about the New York Pro. We know about, I think it was a week or two ago, Carlos Thomas, who was supposed to make his pro debut, had dropped out of that show. He was, had to be considered one of the favorites going in there. Probably Tonio Burton has got to be considered the favorite. He's probably the highest ranking guy in the lineup, him and Max Charles. I wanted to get your opinion on some of these guys because a lot of these guys are new guys, Lee, which, as you know, because you were the new guy on the block at one point. This is a huge opportunity for a couple of guys to make names for themselves because they're not in a lineup of Olympia guys that are going to slaughter them. It's going to be a wide open show, and whoever comes in, I think, in the best shape is going to wind up coming out of this thing with a win or a top 5 placing. And I think that gives these guys an opportunity to really get the fans to let everyone know who they are, the judges and everything like that. Talk to me a little bit about Tonio Burton. He was a 212 guy, moved up, I think it was last year, made it to the Olympia stage. Now he's got to be considered the favorite here. Do you like him?
Yeah, I think I just saw some photos. He's the one that has the tattoos on him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think I've always been impressed when I've seen him, like his shape and the muscularity and the condition I've sometimes seen him in. So, it's something I might have seen it pop up on Instagram this morning. He was doing a lat spread or something. And like I said, he looks great. If he looks, I don't think whether they're filtered on Instagram, but just his proportions and what he has one of those physiques where he's going to look so much better on stage, the illusion of the round muscles and the shaping that he has. So he can definitely win it. And this is the thing, like the New York Pro, like I said, carried on after the Night of Champions type thing. And back in the day, remember the big names that would turn up at those shows? It was always the Olympia, the Arnold, and maybe the Night of Champions, or now the New York Pro, were like the big name shows that if you won them, it was a good win. So I just don't get now why, we've said it before, a lot of these pros sit out so many shows where they could fucking win them if they turned up in great shape. Yeah. It's like, or you get the pros now, be like, oh, I could have won that. Well, then why didn't you fucking do the show, you lazy cunt?
He reminds me of like a young William Bonac, you know. And
I reckon it always reminds me of the conditioning. It's like a Bonac-Dexter type cross.
Right. Now, here's the thing that I think, to answer your question, why people are not doing it. I think that back in the day when Wayne DeMille used to run the was called the Night of Champions, I think he used to go out and solicit people before the show. He would get these guys to commit, sign contracts. He would go visit them. And it's a lot of work, obviously, to do that. But that's why I think those lineups were so deep. He would go to Europe because, remember, there was no social media. There was no one knew who anyone in Europe was. So he would go to Europe and find these guys at these obscure shows and sign them up. Say, hey, I want you to come do Night of Champions next year, you know. And no one knew these guys. So they would be like, where do you find Nasser El-Somadi? Where do you find Momo Benaziza? Where do you find, all these freaks that he would get to come to the
But even the Americans in the show was always deep with the Americans, like pretty much. It was always
every
like
national, the Nationals, whoever won the Nationals would always do the Night of Champions as their first show, usually too.
I just don't get it when it just comes to any shows now. The amount of people who are still young aren't doing all the shows, and it's like I said once before. Oh, Lee, it's bad on their health if they keep dieting, taking drugs. I'm like, okay, if you're abusing the drugs, yes, it can be bad, but if you're just using, take the two scenarios. You're using gear, but you're eating clean food. You're doing cardio. You're more active. So cardio-wise, and you'd think you're going to be fitter compared to being like Lee Priest, 285, eating Kentucky, sitting on the couch, no cardio, still taking drugs. It's like, what's worse for you? Off-season being fat, taking gear, or taking a bit of gear, eating clean food, doing cardio?
That's right. Exactly.
Competing's probably the lesser of two evils. So
yeah.
Now Walter Debs, stupid, crazy shit.
Oh yeah, but you know what though? You were a freak show, Lee. You were in another world, another class by yourself. So you're not even a good example.
I saw the question asked on Ask Dave: is Lee making a comeback?
Oh yeah, you like that?
Will Lee compete again? It's true what you said. Look, if I didn't have these injuries from the car accident, I'd probably still be competing now because, like I said, when I did the comeback in 13 and won the universe, that's probably one of my best shapes. So, the sides that aren't affected, I still have all the mass and that. So that died it down. I'd still look good. I'd probably still be competitive in those classes. So sadly, at the moment, no.
Yeah, I think you would too. All right. Walter Debs won the Nationals back in the end of 22. He's making his pro debut. He was supposed to be making his pro debut with Carlos Thomas, who won the year before that, but obviously Carlos not in the lineup. Debs in the lineup. Really good structure. He had a great, if you want to go back and watch the interview I did with him after he won the show, he had a great story to tell. But here's a guy who has a chance to make a difference, right off the bat. I mean, he's made some amazing improvements in his physique over the last, couple of years. How do you think he'll do in this lineup?
It's hard to say. It's like I said, I said these things are hard to say because sometimes it's almost like you'd like to know who the definite winner is going to be. Like, oh, he's going to win for sure. And then you pick others. When it's sort of like this, where, like you said at the beginning, anyone who comes in their best condition can win this show, which I like because it makes the show exciting when you don't have that clear winner, when you're like, oh, he's going to win. Yeah, such and such. So I think when it's up for grabs, I just think it makes the whole show that more exciting with prejudging, with watching it. It can come down to the wire. Whereas, like I said, when there's already a big name who's going to be the determined winner, it's like when you used to remember Schumacher would be doing Formula One. Yeah. Like, there'd be the points are close. Schumacher's just in the lead a bit, but then he goes out and wins all these races. And there's still 5 races in a year to go, but Schumacher's already tied up the championship. You're like, oh fuck! It's like it takes that excitement away.
Yeah, I was always rooting against Schumacher because I was a really big BMW guy back then, and I was always rooting for the BMW car, you know. And they just could never put it all together. Those guys, they couldn't beat Schumacher. He was just too good.
I should have. Did you see my on Instagram? Did you see my new race swing I put on the Aston Martin? I'm ready for the track. Yeah.
Say that again, Lee. Sorry,
I said, did you see the new Aston Martin race wing on my car? I'm ready for the track.
Oh,
now.
no,
I'm ready to join.
I got to pull that up. Hold on.
I think it's on my Instagram or on my Facebook. I'm ready for the Le Mans. It's the race wing on the race cars.
Let's do that.
I'm just waiting for the front one to come now that has the rods in it that I had on the Mustang. You can adjust the front lip up and down.
Romano doesn't like the wing, though.
Who?
Romano says he doesn't like the wings.
Oh,
I like it.
Oh, look at that.
I think it looks great. I don't think it really does anything in terms of performance, but I think it looks good.
No, yeah, like I blacked it out. The grill's all black around, the windows are black.
It looks like a Porsche now, actually, rather than an Aston Martin.
I got another extension lip coming for the front that has, like I said, the adjustable rods. So then the back will match the front.
That's great. Yeah,
there's me giving life tips on there. That's me telling life tips there.
You giving life tips?
Yeah, listen to one of them.
Let's see.
In the morning rant. Now, if you're a mother or a female or a father or a male and you have children and you use those children as pawns to get back at the other person, you're a fucking piece of shit. I don't care if he cheated on you with the cheerleading team. I don't care if she had a gangbang with the football team. You can hate the other person as much as you want, but keeping that child from either parent only hurts the child. Your ego is so badly hurt by what your partner's done to you. You're that such of a fucking asshole. You use the child as a weapon. That hurts the child. Yes, the other parent will be upset. Have equal visitation rights, not once every 2 weeks or so. Think of the fucking child, not yourself, not your ego, what's ever been hurt. Listen, unless either parent, if they're not abusive, if they're not hooked on drugs, if they love the child, take care of the child, you should never keep that child from either parent. And that goes for both men and women. I've seen it done to many friends where the female, sadly, just hates him because, oh, he cheated or he left me or he did this or did that. The child had nothing to do with that. Like I said, hate that person all you fucking want. If you love the child, you'd never do that to your child and harm your child that way by keeping it from the other parent.
Good advice, Lee. Very good advice.
Oh, very good. The one before that was about, because I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Have you seen it?
Yeah. No, I haven't seen it yet. You went to the movies and saw it?
Yes. It was very good. There was no really woke stuff in it, so it was really good. But
wow,
in it, it shows you how they made Rocket in the beginning, and they're experimenting on
Don't
animals.
ruin it for me.
It sort of made me cry in that. So from that, I went into a rant about how companies should never experiment on rats and monkeys. They should use people on death row who are in jail for life, that have terminal illnesses where, listen, I understand if you're in jail for life and you've taken lives, you've committed mass murder or did whatever, people go, well, you can't be bad to them in jail. They're human rights. I'm like, no, if you've killed people, all your human rights are gone out the window. You're now just an object. And like I said, if you're on death row or you're there for life and say you have a cancer or this or that, we're going to experiment on you because the drug will work better on you than fucking a rat.
Lee, I got even a better idea. Offer them leniency. In other words, let's say they're serving a life sentence. You might let them out early if the drugs don't kill them and it actually cures something. Then all right, you know what? We're commuting your sentence because you donated your body.
But I had people that didn't listen probably because they said people in jail who have terminal illnesses, cancer. That people write to me, you're just a fucking asshole. Why would you experiment on people just because they have cancer or terminal illness? I said the ones in jail who are it's like,
people hear it. You know what, Lee? People hear what they want to hear. That's the problem. Yeah. All right, let's get back to New York Pro. for a
Yeah,
minute. I'm
I thought
going to
it was
read
done.
the lineup here. So
I'm
we
glad
got.
I'm glad you didn't ask me about the Pittsburgh Pro guest poses, because I saw you done that with Chris, and every station's done it. And it's like I said, who gives a fuck how they look now? You can't predict the Olympia from a couple of guys guest posing now on how they're going to fucking look.
Right. You know what, Lee? It's just that people like. First of all, people are bored, number one, because the season really hasn't gotten going. You know, we had the Arnold, but then it was a big lull. So anything that like will inspire talk and debate about, you know, what's going to happen in the season is juicy gossip. So the Pittsburgh was really the first time we've seen all these guys up on stage. So there was something to talk about. But you're right. I remember the year I think it was the year he won the Olympia. Remember when Sean Roden looked horrendous at the guest pose in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
He was so bad and he was so out of shape. And it was so embarrassing to him, and people were ripping him apart. And he came back at that Olympia and looked amazing. You know, so
I know. That's what I said. It's like they're doing it now with that guest posing. I said, you can't even really predict it a day or two before, because how many times have we seen people a day or two before, and you're like top 5, or he's going to be second, or he's going to win, and then they don't make the top 10 just in 2 days. Something went wrong with their hocus pocus prep, their magic water pills, or fucking whatever they do. They fucked up. It's like. Sadly, Dennis James was one. Remember seeing Dennis James before shows in those photos in his tank tops and shit? He'd be fucking massive.
Yeah, you look like the Olympia champ in those pictures.
Oh, and then when he walked on stage, you're like, oh, fuck, what happened?
Because he'd have to, you know, take diuretics and stuff like that, and he would completely deflate, you know, before the show. By the way, good.
I was going to say, who else is actually in the show?
Well, I'm going to read you the list, but I was going to just say we have someone, IFBB Figure Pro, emailed me. I don't know if she wants me to mention her name, so I won't mention. But she was complimenting, you know, the fact that I provide a lot of science information in my diet. But then she also said she watches the Iron Rage show, and I said, "Holy mackerel, we actually have some women viewers who actually like the show, Lee." So it's pretty cool that. There are some women, Lee, that are not offended by the stuff that you say and actually enjoy the show and laugh at it. So
good, because speaking of offense, I just told you about my friend Isaac Butterfield in Australia. He's just done it.
I know.
I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but he's been pulled. He got a letter because someone was so offended by a joke he told. He has to go to the Human Rights Commission in Australia. Imagine going to the Human Rights Commission for a joke that someone was that offended, because he jokes about Aborigines. He made jokes about the Holocaust. He made jokes about rape, like any other comedian, like, you know, goes on the Jim Jeffries type thing. When you go into these shows, you know what to expect. It's a joke. You laugh, you move on. It's like, in no way is he racist or that, but he's a comedian. That's what they do. Some of those, imagine, like we said before, if Eddie Murphy or Richard Pryor or these people were telling jokes now, oh my God. And someone actually got mad at him last year because there was a guy like with cerebral palsy in the audience. So he was like making fun of him. And like people like, oh, you know, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. But this cerebral palsy guy wrote to him and goes, you know what? That's the first time I've ever felt like normal, like everybody else, because I go to these events.
That's great. That's
yes,
awesome.
because like they go to these events and, you know, comedians will pick out different people. But if they see someone like that, they're like, oh, we better not go there. But he said, you picking on me, making fun of me, made me feel like everybody else in the room. So he was laughing his head off, having a great time.
I think that, first of all, I've said this before, Australia might be the most fucked up country of all. They make us look in the United States. They make us look like we don't even have any problems, because you guys have the stupidest laws.
I do want to thank you for having that big trillions of dollars debt, because old dumb fucked up Biden was coming here next week, but now he has to go home and fix out this fucking, you know, he wants to raise that fucking the debt ceiling, whatever, because everyone now, the world's on edge. If the American economy collapses, it's going to be catastrophic for everyone.
Right.
But how do you keep borrowing money? How do you raise the debt ceiling? If I was $1 million in debt, how can I go back to the bank and say, can you give me another $1 million? I know I'm having a hard time paying the first $1 million. Can you give me more?
Because, Lee, in this country, in the United States, we just print more money when we need money. We don't. It's not based on anything. Oh, we need another $20 billion to send over to Russia. We'll just print it, because we're the dollar is the universal, you know, international, you know, currency. So we can print whatever we want. That's why we don't want to lose that status as having the dollar be the standard, because then we can't print Russian money. You know, we can't print euros here. So we can only print
Now,
dollars.
I am disgusted in America with this whole immigration thing because I was watching. Actually, I had a laugh somewhere in New York. All the black people on the streets going, "These people are coming in and taking this and taking that." Well, you voted for the Democrats, but then what I was upset by. Did you see the amount of veterans they're putting out of hotels and places to let the immigrants go in?
I know the whole we're in a bad
Like,
situation.
how can you put veterans out that went and fought for your country and that you put them on the streets to let the illegals into the
Look, Trump had it right. Everyone criticized him. You know what? But he kept it. He kept the borders secured. No one was coming into the country. We didn't have to worry about any of this. So,
yeah.
People can make fun of him all they want, but he in that sense, he understood the whole immigration issue, and I guess Biden just doesn't understand it. But let's get back to New York Pro. Max Charles,
Right.
probably one of the more well-known names in the lineup.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's
And
at
the
a
thing
point.
with Max is I like Max, and I think I've seen him in a few shows because Milos still helps Max, doesn't he, or was?
I don't know. Max kind of floats around from person to person. He's worked with a lot of different people.
Because there's a few
I don't know
shows
who
I've
he's worked
seen him
with.
in. I've seen him in a few shows, like last year, where I thought he should have placed higher than he should have, than he did. I mean, so because his conditioning is generally on point, so he can. Like I said, it's going to be one of those things you won't know to the day. But from the photos you showed me, I will go out on a limb and make a prediction. From the 3 people you showed me, I will predict this. I'm going to say it. A black guy will win.
Maybe not. But I will say this.
Well, you haven't shown me a white person yet. Is there a white guy in the show?
I remember the first time I saw Max Charles. I was at Bev's gym training one night, and this guy is in there, and he's wearing this sweatshirt that was, and I even went up and asked him how many X's. This thing was like 6X. I didn't even know they made 6X sweatshirts. And yes, it was baggy around the waist, but it fit like he needed it. He couldn't have put on a 5X because that's how big his upper body was. Yeah. And he was saturated in sweat. It was like you could have taken the thing and wrung it out. That's how wet this thing was. And I remember going up to him. I'm like, who are you? I don't think I've seen. He's like, oh, my name's Max. Max is a really nice guy. And we started talking, and I'm like, I said, you got some good size on you. I said, you compete? He goes, well, I haven't competed yet, or I want to compete or whatever. I'm like, what are you waiting for? I'm not ready yet or whatever. It was like, and I knew he was enormous. I didn't know quite how good he would look, but I said, this guy, I mean, just his size and his structure, and he had the wide shoulders and his arms were enormous.
Is he doing he's old. Was he staying on the list for the Masters Olympia?
I mean, if he's not, he should be. I mean, because he's got to be over 40 at this point.
Yeah, easy.
And
I wasn't sure if I saw his name on the list.
So I did an interview with him at some point, and we went over and he explained to me his training philosophy, which at the time, I'm sure he doesn't do that anymore, but what he would do is he would train chest, like he would do like 20 sets of chest or something like that, 25 sets of chest. He would do bench pressing, then incline bench, incline dumbbells, flat dumbbells, flies, and machine. And then what he would do is when he finished, he would repeat the workout and go backwards. So if he ended with flies, he would do flies, and then he would do the whole workout, the same workout he just did backwards. And it would take, he'd be in the gym for like 3.5, 4 hours, this guy. And he did this for every body part. And it didn't matter when you went to the gym, he was at that gym. I don't even know how many hours he spent at the gym. And people thought when I did the interview that he was lying, but I used to see him there. I mean, I'd watch him do these workouts. They were insane.
I'm a firm believer. I've always said, if you can get enough rest, you can get the food in, you're taking supplements, whatever, and you feel like you're making gains. Well, everyone's different. I've seen people, I used to train for hours on end, and I would always, people like, how do you keep your pumping? Sometimes I'd be in the gym for 2 hours, and my last set at the end of the 2 hours, I was still getting the great pump. I never had that where, okay, I'm just going through the motions. I don't feel it. I felt it the whole time. So I think a lot of it is too, yes, genetics, but also too, if you can keep your mind engaged and keep that mind-muscle connection the whole time, because generally after an hour or two, people start losing it mentally. And they're like, okay, I've had enough and blah, blah, blah. So you're not as focused, and then your workout goes downhill.
I haven't finished the most spectacular part. So to keep his pump, he would drink like 2 liters of regular soda every day. Even when he dieted, And the amount of weight that he lifted was so heavy. I used to run over to him and try to help spot him. He's like, no, I'm fine. He would put like 600 pounds on the bench press, Lee, and he would take this thing off himself. And he wasn't doing full range repetitions, but you could tell he was controlling the weight. It wasn't like he was like, swinging anything or anything like that. And he would do that for all exercises, enormous amounts of weight on the bar and just crazy form. And I was like horrified. I'm like, this is called a genetic freak. I said, I hope no one in this gym is watching him and trying to copy him. But
people laughed at me when I'd have Pop-Tarts and Fruit Loops before the gym and get a great pump.
He had no body fat on him too, though. Because I think he would burn through it all because his workouts was so long that he couldn't physically eat enough food to gain any body fat, from it.
Well, that's what Eddie, Eddie, when I used to do cardio, Eddie used to always tell me that back in the day, Arnold and all them very rarely did cardio because they'll train twice a day. Each workout could be 2.5 hours. So really the training was just part of their cardio too. So you didn't really need it.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, will Max Charles, will this be his opportunity to win this show and go back to the Olympia? It's possible. He could certainly win this show. He's probably one of the highest ranked people.
Is it just the winner qualifies for the O for this one or top two?
I think it's just the winner. Yeah, they changed all that, when they I guess they had too many people at the Olympia, so they stopped inviting all the people. I think it's fine too. I don't mind. I think you should have to win the show, don't you?
Yeah. I always said you should have to win a show, but then say, like the old days, if somebody's doing 3 shows and he's won the 3 shows, he's taken that spot. It should go to the runner-up guy in that case.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do one, right, I agree with you 100% too. Yeah, I think if you're going to do one person goes, then maybe offer to the runner-up spot if you have a guy winning
like back in the day, if it was just the winner going and Flex won the Ironman, then he wins the Arnold, then he wins the San Fran. It's like he's already qualified. Give it the guy who got second, huh?
Yep. So the lineup in completion is Slavoj Bednar from Czech Republic, Tonio Burton we mentioned, Max Charles, Leonardis Delfino from Texas, Walter Debs, Mike Halusi from Australia. Do you know that guy?
No.
It's one of your countrymen right there.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. I think what's his name was. I think he was guest posing, wasn't he? With
I see the guy that Tony. Someone said there was a guy Tony brought out.
Yeah, I think that's the guy that Tony brought over. He looked good. Joseph Kvetin from Czech Republic, Kinyu Park from South Korea, Joe Seaman from Canada, Nathan Spear, Robin Strand from Canada, Stuart Sutherland. Stu is going to I think we're going to get him on the show before the end of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Stu's making good. his pro debut, too.
He looks good. Then they call him Beef Stu. That's him, isn't it?
I love Beef Stu has got the greatest personality. When
every time I see him, he looks like a juiced up Bruno Mars.
You're right, though. You're really right, Lee. He's got a great personality. He reminds me of Tim Belknap, doesn't he?
Yeah, with the jaw and that. Yeah, but he's on I think he was on Fuad's podcast, and he has that sort of. He just has like a bit of a dry sense of humor when he's talking, type thing. So,
what's with his hair? I got to ask him.
Like Bruno Mars, eh? He could just.
What is? You think that's his hair, or is that a wig? I got to ask him next time I get him on the show.
It's actually hair. Yeah, that's his hair.
he's the greatest. He's got some. Look at that.
He's given what's his name? George from the Ancient Aliens a run for the money with the hair.
Yeah. He looks like remember Eduardo Kawak?
Yeah, he had hair. Yeah,
he had that same hairdo, right?
Yeah,
he's a great guy. Good guy.
Talk about thickly muscled, Edward Kowak. God.
Yeah, he was a freak, that guy. But so Stu's making his pro debut, so that's going to be cool to see how he does.
I could see him being like he could win. It'll be top 3 easy from the name so far.
Just because he comes in really, really shredded and ripped, and I think this is going to be. I think this is going to be a show of conditioning, to be honest with you.
But didn't they have wasn't there a guest posing not long ago where they had him beside Labrada, and he looked pretty good. He held his own.
Yeah,
Even though
no,
it's
he
off
held his
season,
own.
you know,
Yeah, he held his own. I see Brett Swanson's competing. He's dangerous too. He's made some great improvements over the last couple of years.
One
you
of
know,
those other names you mentioned, he's got a great physique, but every time I hear his name, I think to myself, going through school with the last name Seaman, even though it's spelt different, how much
Joe
shit
Seaman,
would
yeah.
you've got? How much
Yeah.
shit would you've got with that as your last name?
What about
Could have
if
been
your
worse.
last name?
Could have been called Richard Seaman. Then it could have been worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey Dick.
Exactly.
Hey Dick Seaman, come here.
What about like the if you have the last name Cummings, because there's a lot of people with that name too. That's a tough name to go through school with, you know.
But people actually pick. I still don't get it when normally the Hollywood people that pick the weirdest names for their children. It's like even like something like Apple, and back in the day, or some of these made up names. You'll see someone on TV. What's your name? Shaquika Wonder. You're like,
what about North? What about the Kardashians' kid, Northwest? You know.
I know. It's like, well, I had a friend who's like in America, and his last name's Davison. And of course, he called his son Harley because he likes motorbikes. So his son's name is Harley.
That's great.
It's like,
that's awesome.
Like some things like that are okay, but there's just some weird names where you figure you didn't figure this out, did you? For the kid's got to go through his whole life with that name.
If you're a star, I guess your kid can get away with it because they already have like they already have like special status type of thing. But if you're like a regular kid and your parents name you something weird, you know they're going to get made fun of, like crazy. Cool. All right, last two guys, Mariusz Tomzuk from Poland and Eric Wood from Lutz, Florida. So we got a decent lineup in terms of numbers. I don't know who's going to surprise us and who's going to look great, but we do have some decent talent, a lot of new guys in the lineup. And, I hope we get a top 5 of all people we didn't expect and some new stars that are going to emerge from here. Because
that's where it's like I said, we don't know a lot of them, but it still makes it exciting. Like I said, because there is no clear winner. Watching the show is going to be like picking the winner as well, like with the judges, because there's nothing worse when you go, okay, the judges are going to put him first. He always wins. Let's look second. So it'll make it exciting that way, because even for the competitors too, they must know there's no, like I said, it always sounds bad when you say there's no big names in there like good bodybuilders, because these guys competing are great bodybuilders, but you know what you mean when back in the day, if it had been like those names and Kevin Leverone, they'd be like, oh, Kevin's going to win. Right. Even if you're competing, you're like, oh, he's going to win. But even for the guys competing in this show, they're probably all going in it with the mindset, shit, any of us can win this. There's no standout person here, so makes them probably try that a little bit harder.
Yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity for a lot of people who might not have had an opportunity because of people jumping in, like, big names trying to qualify for the Olympia. This is an opportunity for guys that are just kind of like entering into the pro ranks to actually potentially not even just qualify for the Olympia, but actually make a name for themselves. So,
like I said before, because you could do shows before that say had flex in it or something, and you know to yourself, okay, I'm in great shape now. Fuck, I feel like crap. Well, maybe if I just do this, and you think, no, it doesn't matter what I do. I can almost kill myself. I'm not going to beat him, so why push my body to that limit? So you sort of, wouldn't say you got lazy, but you just figured you almost like give up. You have that defeated thing, like, doesn't matter how great I'm going to look, I'm not going to beat him. He can be a little bit off and still beat me at my best. So I was like, why kill myself a little bit extra?
Right. Ramy should have done the New York Pro rather than the Arnold. This way he could have walked through the show, gotten some momentum going, get people excited about the fact that he won the New York Pro again. And then I think that would have boded better for him. Plus, he would have gone to Pittsburgh in the best shape of his life last weekend. And that would have been, if people were trying to plan, hey, what's the best way to get Ramy back in people's minds as a force to be reckoned with, he should have done Pittsburgh guest posing, competed at New York Pro, shut it down to the Olympia, and he would have had so much momentum going into that week. He would have looked better than everyone.
I think when I was watching Xavier's, he was doing a live thing at a guest posing, and people's comments, oh, look at such and such waist. He's a bit bloated here. He's fat. It's like, it's fucking off season, you idiots. What are you trying to? Look at this.
And I was surprised how good people looked at that, to be honest with you, because most of the time they're not that lean,
And it's like I posted on your RX thing. Like I love Derek's physique and that, but I just hate the way he stands with his feet like so far.
Yeah, why does he
like
do that? He doesn't need that. He's got big calves too. I don't know
the
why he
thing is,
does
like,
that.
he's got great thighs. He's got a tiny waist. If he brings his legs together, or remember the old days, you had to keep your heels together. The judges would say heels together. Heels. And the thing is, you got your shoulders, the tiny waist, feet together. You get his quads are going to flare out. I think by standing with his legs so wide, it actually makes his shoulders look more narrow because he just looks straight like this.
It makes it shorter too, Lee, right? If you put your feet together, you're going to be taller, and he's not the tallest guy on stage, so that you're right. Probably a big mistake.
Does that. I remember Milos made the joke about it, even joked to him about it, like, where's your horse? Did you just get off the horse? Like the old cowboys, the way they used to walk.
Right.
No, I don't know why he stands like that. He doesn't need to.
Good insight. Hopefully he's listening and he'll listen to you. Maybe we'll see him on stage with his feet together.
Because everyone listens to me.
That's right. No, see, everyone says Lee doesn't know what he's talking about, but they do listen to you. So that's the wonderful thing about you. They hear you. They may not agree with you, but they hear you for sure. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up.
You know what? Something's been annoying me when you do the show with Chris. Can you ask him next time? Because I'm so OCD. When's he going to fix that fucking light switch behind him that has the tape on it? Every time I see it, it's fucking getting to me. I'm like,
he told me he won't fix anything in his house till all his kids are out of the house because they break everything, he said.
But that light switch has had that tape over for so long. Every time I see it, I'm like, just replace it.
My son decided he was going to carve his furniture in his room, and he took a pencil and he carved into the wood of the little nightstand he's got. So I know exactly what Chris is talking about. Kids destroy everything. There's nothing. You can't have anything nice.
I'm just looking at it with the tape on. I'm like, every time the show's on, that's all I'm fixing.
I'm going to tell him anything. Lee wants to know, when are you going to take that tape off the light switch already?
I wasn't sure whether it might have just been the angle he was sitting at. The photo that's beside it, I keep looking at it going, is that crooked or is it just the way he's sitting?
I think, yeah. Chris does very little decoration in the way of decorations, I've noticed, in his house. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up.
Light switch. Ask him about the light switch next time, can you?
I'm going to say it's bothering Lee. He can't sleep at night. He keeps thinking about your light switch with the tape.
That's all I'm looking at when he's talking. Is that switch and the tape.
Well, congratulations and good luck to all the competitors at the New York Pro. I know Steve Weinberg is going to put on a great show. If you guys want, there is a live stream. I highly recommend signing up for it. It's this way you can see what's going on live. You don't have to worry about searching all over the place for footage and everything like that. We will be doing wrap-ups after prejudging and after the night show. So don't forget to stay tuned to all the coverage on rxmuscle.com. For now, I'm Dave Palumbo with Lee Priest for another installment of Iron Radio.